Happy morning, everyone. Welcome to the Friday, the last day of the weekend, so that we can start our weekend. And welcome to the morning broadcast show with Abhishek Kokate. Today, my show is also last day of this week. Next week, we'll meet on Monday. Today, being the Leadership Friday, before I get going and share you a story, today is going to be a story on leadership. We'll just get started with our Spartan code. So, if you have a Spartan code, please do read it. It's really beautiful. If you do not have it, read it with me. As a Spartan, I choose to live by choice, not by chance, to be motivated, but not manipulated, to be useful, not used, to make changes, not excuses, to excel, not compete. I choose self esteem, not self pity. I choose to listen to my inner voice, not to the random opinions of others. I choose to do things that you won't, so I can continue to do things which you can't. So thank you so much once again and welcome, warm welcome, a tea wala welcome, chai wala welcome, hot chocolate wala welcome today in the morning broadcast show. And this is my cat. She's also welcoming you. So today we are going to discuss a beautiful story that happened about the leadership, which I happened to read in a book. Now, I'm talking about one of the greatest leaders. I would say, yes, one of the, or we can say, if you rank these leaders in terms of their leadership skills, what they have done in their lifetime, I think Nelson Mandela stands out as a phenomenal person. One of the prime reason why I say he may be the most phenomenal because he has spent close to 24 years in the prison cell, which is not bigger than 10 by 10. And yet, when he came out, when it was about to get elected, when elections were happening, he had, after the elections, not after coming, after the post election, when he was elected, he could have gone after the whites people because the kind of problem they caused, or if you see the apartheid in South Africa, it's something we can't even imagine. Seriously, you have to go and understand. It's not just about few years, not just few decades, more than half of the century. Also, so much challenges were being thrown because of apartheid. So when he came back, his people wanted them to punish the white people. But what he did was something phenomenal. He never did that. He forgave those people. And that's why Nelson Mandela is Nelson Mandela. Now, today I'm going to share one of the greatest lessons that I learned personally from the life of Nelson Mandela. So before I jump into the lesson of leadership, let me tell you the story. The story starts like this. So in 1994, when Nelson Mandela was just out of the prison and there was presidential elections going to happen, he was supposed to make a visit to a place called Natal, Natal, Natal. So Natal place, at that time there were a lot of political problems going on. His own party, where he came from, were getting killed from the opposite party. That place was absolutely not at all safe for Mandela to come. But still, then Mandela decided, no, I need to visit. So he had to catch a flight and go to Natal. Natal being a very small place, small airport, and not small airport, I would say. The flight that he took was a very small flight with a propeller. So when he was in that flight, when we were about to land, 20 minutes before landing, they came to know that the propeller of the engine in the plane has stopped to work. Exactly. The propeller has stopped to work, which means landing is going to be disastrous. We all know what happens when any of the machineries of planes fail. What we have seen across the television few months back, the landing, the crashes, right? So when the propeller failed, actually Mandela was sitting and he saw through his window that the propeller has failed, and he told his bodyguard. There was only one bodyguard with him that time. He told his bodyguard to inform the pilot. When the bodyguard went to tell the pilot told the bodyguard that they already know the propeller has fell, and they have already informed the landing station at Natal to keep everything ready, which means which means firefighters, which means medical workers, which means ambulances on standby, which means situation can be in that way. Because if any of this thing fails, definitely there would be disaster, no doubt about it. So they landed to with this a very stormy landing. Somehow they landed, they got out of the plane. The propeller was working, happened to be accompanying Madiba, Nelson Mandela. He was called Madiba to Natal, that committee. During in the car, in that particular car, the moment they entered, he was like, Mandela was shocked, and he was saying, "Man, I was so frightened." So the writer was shocked because during the whole landing process, his bodyguard was telling to the writer that Mandela didn't even utter a word, even when it was rocky, the landing, when the plane even just touched the tarmac. He was just sticking to his newspaper. He didn't even look at what's happening outside. So we thought, oh, what a brave man he is. But inside, when he was with the writer, he confided that man, he was shocked and he was so fearful that he thought it might be end of his life. So what Mandela said in that situation was that, man, courage is not just about being fearless. Stupid people, crazy people can be fearless because they really don't know the outcome. Courage is not absence of fear. Courage is having fear but still going ahead and doing it anyways. So that is the first lesson that we learn. Now going ahead, again the writer mentions a few lessons. So in 1934, when there's apartheid was at peak, Mandela, being a young boy, young man, was visiting a political office that time. He was a student's leader, and he was in a car, and the car was going past an area, a very conservative area, conservative white area, which means even a black person is not allowed to go past in that area. That is what I meant, a conservative area. He happened to touch a young boy who was bicycling, and this boy happened to be white. Finished. The moment he was touched, Mandela understood that there's going to be a problem. So he was carrying a banned newspaper. He was not supposed to be banned. He's not supposed to be carried. And that newspaper, he immediately put it below his seat, so that he know that police is going to come. And if they see the newspaper, they will put him up for 3 years in the imprisonment. Imagine in 1934 in South Africa, carrying a newspaper which was banned would put you inside the prison for 3 years. I'm just trying to make you understand the depth of the situation, right? It was this kind of things were not there in India also. That much apartheid in South Africa. So the police came. The moment police saw that he's a black man, of course he got emboldened. And in South African language, he said, uh, what he said. He said, "Kafir, you're going to shit." That is exact thing what he said, looking into the eyes of Nelson Mandela Madiba. The response of Nelson Mandela is phenomenal. He looked back at the police officer and he said, uh, "I do not want police officers to tell me where should I shit." And he looked right into his eyes. So what Madiba or Nelson Mandela is mentioning in his autobiography is that he was shit scared. He was absolutely scared because he knew that he's going to get beaten up. He'll be dragged into the prison because he is looking into the eyes of a white police officer in apartheid South Africa. This is a highest crime of the land. They won't accept it. It's a sin. But what he said is that I made that courage. Although I was in fear, I made that courage. Because sometimes you have to appear courageous in the face of fear. That is where you start gathering courage. And that is the first incident. And once he looked back, nothing much happened. The officer looked into it and waved them off, allowed him to go. But if he wouldn't have done it, you know what would have happened. You'd have taken him, put him into the jail, created a lot of problems. That didn't happen. Another incident is narrated in 1964 when Nelson Mandela was put into the prison of Robben Island, ROBB in Robben Island. You can check it up. It's a tourist spot now in South Africa. So when he and with him there were fellow prisoners, also political prisoners specifically, and of course when they entered, generally the guards at the jail, they will try to make fun. So they were making fun of Nelson Mandela and his whoever his inmates were. So one of the inmate was having very long hair, and they made him naked. So generally, in a prison, they'll make you naked to see if you're carrying any contrabands. That time, the jailer, the guard, immediately looked at that long fellow with the long hair and said, "You're not supposed to keep that long hair. Huh? Why are you having this long hair?" He started to mock him. And the person, being very introvert and shy and very gentle man, he never responded to it. But this guy kept on pestering him. What is this? Making fun. There was no reason. There is no rules like that. Okay, if there is a rule, you can communicate, in a proper way. You don't need to mock somebody. It may be due to the religious belief or whatever. That time, Nelson Mandela looked at the jailer and said, You don't talk to him like that. What's the problem? Like that, he asked. The jailer got very irritated. He looked at Mandela and he told him, "You don't talk to me like this." And then he rushed with the baton, baton to hit Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela wrote in the autobiography, "I knew that I'm going to get assaulted very badly. There is nobody who is going to know." Even they said, if you get killed on this island, nobody is going to know. The moment he came, Nelson Mandela looked into his eyes and said, "If you hit me with that baton even once, I'm going to go to the highest court in this country and I'll make sure, I'm a lawyer, I'll make sure that you die as a pauper. You will not have 1 rupee or $1 in your account. You will die as a pauper. You'll get out from this completely, will remove you. I'll make sure." And for that moment, the officer stopped and he realized that, man, I'm talking to a man who knows his rights very well. It will not work. And he just suspended and he didn't do anything. If you see here again he mentions that I was in big fear, but I decided to confront that fear with something more, and then I realized that I can win over it. And every time I'm winning in that fear, I'm creating that layer of courage. And the last incident I wanted to mention about Nelson Mandela is that when he was in prison, he came to know the news of his elder son passing away tragically, and he was so down. It seems the colleagues who were the inmates who were with him have mentioned in the biography that he didn't come out of his cell for that particular day. These inmates went there, hold his hands, and they were sitting with him throughout the day because he has lost his son. I think the highest pain a human being can go through in any life, in this life, is the loss of the loved ones. There cannot be any bigger pain. The pain of loss of money, everything is separate, and the loss of loved one is just so of the highest. So they expected Mandela to be there and be depressed and away from family. What to do? But the very next day, Mandela came out of the cell and went to the limestone quarry. So every day they have to do physical work. So he went to the limestone quarry and doing it. Started to do the coring work. So his inmates were shocked and they asked Mandela, why did you come? You can be inside. He said, no, I know that I'm broken inside, but don't want to show my broke or my depressed or my sad state of mind to these inmates as well as to the authorities. Otherwise they will think that, oh, we get broken heartedly. I want to show that I am brave. Sometimes you have to act brave, and he came out and he did. Got it. In today's environment, we might think that is may not be the right thing to do, but that's what Mandela did. He said he never want to show his weakness to the oppressors. He came out and he did his task as expected. So with this 3-4 lessons on Mandela's life, one thing I understood in leadership is that we need to put up the brave front in our life whenever the wrong things are happening, when things are not happening in our way, when people are not supporting us. Usually when you're not in the position of authority, even in corporates, I've seen corporate bullying where people bully up on one particular vulnerable staff and they try to make the life miserable. I have seen those examples in my life. Specifically, there was a very good gentleman called Jay Prakash, JP as I called him, in my earlier organization. He fall prey to the office politics, and although none of reasons of him, they put him on problem and they asked him to leave. And the last I spent my 15 days with him, 2 weeks, because I was taking handover from him. And this man, I'm telling you honestly, a hero in my eyes, because that particular moment, this man did not give up to the police. Imagine the HR and the director of finance all collaborating together to put you out of work completely. But still, this man JP stood, and they had all the power. In fact, they took away his uniform also. They took away the uniform of my friend JP. Still, he gave up his uniform. Every day he used to dress up in t-shirt and jeans. He used to come and sit next to me, hand over, and whatever these oppressors were mocking him, making fun of him, he never gave an out. He never caved in. He didn't even go and ask them to reconsider his resignation or termination. Never. Although he was going down on finances, he has installments to pay, and he is away from his home country. He never did anything. He smiled till the end. I vividly remember his farewell. He smiled till the end. JP showed courage despite fear in his mind. So I always, and there are many examples, which of course I can't mention on a live, but these I have seen in corporates. And there are people like this where corporate bullying happens against a particular employee, but the employees doesn't get any support from any department, let alone the HR. We all know what HR does usually. So still he continued to be in that place. So people like these are around everywhere, and I would say that is courage. And in leadership, you don't need to be a great, you need to be a boss as a leader. You can show your leadership wherever you are, whatever you do. So with this, I leave you with this lesson. It's already 15 minutes. I took 4 minutes more because, but beautiful lesson in life to draw about courage, about leadership of Madiba and Nelson Mandela next week. In the leadership section, I'll bring up more. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic week ahead. Please introspect on these stories, and if any of these stories, any of these lives are resonating with you, please do drop a comment. Not just because I am saying it. If it resonates with you, if you makes any difference to your thinking, to your life, I'll love to hear from you, because that's the motivation I see for myself to do this every morning. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye. Hmm. Switching off.